What makes Ash Barty's slice, backhand slice, so good? We're gonna look at a technical breakdown a little later, but here's what I'm thinking. Ash Barty can do everything with that slice. She can play defense.
Well, Rebecca Peterson after that.
She uses it like the only other person that I can really think of who used her slice to really position her opponents around on the court. And of course, you know that I'm talking about Steffi Graf. Ash Barty uses her slice to set up her huge forehand.
Speaks to the strength in depth on the WTA.
Of course, she can attack with it. She can hit winners, she can come in behind it, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most frustrating things when I played Steffi twice in doubles to get past with a backhand slice. But look at the next example and just see how much pace Ash has on that backhand slice.
Getting the job done.
Look at that slice. It has a side spin on it.
And then lastly, she can use it as a rhythm breaker, right? Because that ball, that slice has different height, different pace. She can disguise it, she can drop shot off of it, and it just neutralizes her opponents. So if you think back to the semis and to the Wimbledon final when she played Sabalenka and Pliskova, I mean, those are huge hitters. And they just can't really do that much with a slice that just skids, especially on grass, that just skids and just knifes through the court. So she's just using it very, very smartly as a breaker of rhythm. Hey, and by the way, my name is Mike Babel. I'm a former top 30 WTA pro. I played in 19 Grand Slams, including Wimbledon, so I know how slices help you on that surface. If you like this video, please do subscribe and suggest it to your friends. Click on that little bell symbol because that lets you know when I'm putting new content out. So now let's check out Ashleigh Barty's slice and why it's so good. Looking at Ash Barty's slice here, we'll start with the take back. And you'll see that it's actually very interesting to me how high she's taken her racket back. So if we look at other players, they barely take the racket back to about neck level. She has her racket head above her own head. And you're also seeing, of course, she has a continental grip. The left hand is on the throat of the racket, and she's just doing a really good job bringing her entire right side of her body around. So you see her left hip turning and her left shoulder facing us here. And if we had the perspective from Petra Kvitova, actually, Ash's right shoulder blade is looking over to Petra. So you do want to have that coil. So again, looking at that higher take back, what that does for Ash is that she's gaining a lot of racket head speed coming down and then through the ball. And that is really what adds so much rotations on her slice. And that's really where that stickiness comes from, that bite on her slice. And I'm thinking it's a little different, for instance, compared to Steffi Graf, who had a way lower take back. Her racket head was above the shoulder barely. And I think Steffi's slice, and I played her twice, so I can speak to that, was extremely fast, and it just stayed super low. Ash's, of course, stays equally low, but I think hers just has a little bit more bite on it. So just again, looking at that higher take back here and right over her head here with the racket at face. And just something that interested me was what the angle here really is between her upper arm and her forearm. And this is an individual expression. I did that with a couple of other players there between, from what I measured and the way I measure it, between 108 and 118. So this seems to be a very individual expression of her slice. And then the other angle that also interested me is the angle between the wrist here and the racket. So that's 82.5 degrees. Again, those are more individual things. The really key parts are that, of course, you have the continental grip, that you have a bend in your elbow, and that you're taking the racket back with that coil that we talked about. And you see here in this picture, actually, that Ash's chin literally rests on her right shoulder, and you see how far that shoulder blade comes around and it looks to her opponent. So let's keep going with the breakdown here. So this is where you see how she's coming down and extending her elbow. So we see the bend here. And as she's coming down with the racket, now her elbow is fully extended. We don't see that from this angle, but we will see it from another perspective in a second. Contact is out and in front of her body here, and ideal between hip and shoulder. So now one thing that I really want to point out is, to my mind, yes, she does come across her body, and you will do that too, because you have at this point reached the end of your range of motion. So you can't really extend further out. Your natural swing will be down and through here, but what she doesn't do is she doesn't open up her chest. So her left shoulder is still pointing back to us. And you see that here very clearly, how she uses her left arm as a counterbalance tool to actually prevent herself from whipping around with the left shoulder. And I think that is a lot of times when clients of mine or players that I see, recreational players, they're trying to get that massive underspin. They're coming down on the ball, but they're also very heavily rotating their left shoulder into the court. And that's when a lot of times either the ball flies or you're just having a lot of float on the ball because you're just opening up too soon. So again, that is not contradictory that you're coming across your body with the swing, but you're still staying sideways. So you see Ash's chest is actually facing this way, and it's not facing towards Petra. And only now the left shoulder comes around, but that is basically part of the recovery and getting ready of the next for the next shot. So let's look at that from a different angle. Again, we're looking at a couple of things. Of course, you got the continental grip here. The left hand is on the throat, on the lower side of the throat here. And now you're seeing that torque. Now you're seeing that turning, and you're seeing that the chin rests on the shoulder here. And again, you see that really, really high take back. And now you're also seeing how she's coming off of her outside foot, transferring a weight onto her right. And this is where her bite comes from, the bite on her ball. This is the action. So again, we see that here, the elbow is bent. And as she's bringing her racket down and forward through the ball, she also extends her elbow. And this is a beautiful picture that I found here. You see that before she's making contact, her elbow is extended. So that angle definitely has changed from the 112 or whatever it was. The angle that does not change as dramatically is really the angle between the racket and the wrist, the forearm, because that is one other thing that I'm seeing a lot of times, that players actually extend their wrist so that at this moment here, the racket would almost look over here, and they're kind of flicking with the wrist. And you don't really want to hack at the ball with your wrist because that also lends a lot of instability to the shot. So let's go back to our example here. So you see, of course, this angle changed. This angle here changed a little bit, but not as dramatically, and it's not completely extended. So you do see a clear bend here. And one more time, that extension of the left arm right here as a counterbalance tool to prevent herself from opening up with her left shoulder and opening the racket face up then too much so that your ball is floating. So if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and suggest my channel to other friends, and I am seeing you for one of my next videos.